And what's the form of grafting we're going to do today?
This is called a cleft graft.
Cleft.
It's one of the easiest, simplest. Anybody can do it. After practicing a few times, generally you're going to be successful.
And you recommend to get good just to go out and practice in your yard?
Practice on anything you can.
Okay, cool.
The more you practice with, the better you're going to get at it.
Yeah.
You know, you get to be pretty good at it the more times you try, like anything else.
All right, so we're here by your persimmon tree. And what variety of persimmon is this?
This is Sage-O.
Okay.
It's one of the sweetest and best of all persimmons.
Okay.
A little bit smaller. It's kind of a small yellow persimmon, but very, very sweet. When we did a Brix reading with Al Falkenstein.
Yeah, that's the sweetness reading.
The sweetness reading. Brix, unlike a peach and something, was normally about 15 or 16.
Wow.
We did a Brix reading on this and it was 34.
Wow.
So like twice as sweet as a peach, basically.
Do you think that the way that you grow it with the mulch and stuff adds to the sweetness?
May add some to it, but really it's just the variety is the main thing. It's just a really sweet persimmon. This is probably about 12 to 15 years old.
So this is your pride and joy persimmon?
It's one of the better ones. I've had 3 or 4 others here and haven't got one over here that was a decent persimmon but just didn't have the flavor on this, so I've grafted that one over to this. So I have 2 trees of it.
Nice. So when you take a branch off of this persimmon, you call it a scion?
Scion.
Okay.
S-C-I-O-N.
Okay.
So we're looking for something that is nice, good growth, it's smooth, round, has some good buds on it, about the diameter of a pencil or smaller.
Okay, so pencil diameter.
Pencil diameter is usually best.
Okay.
So I'm looking at the tree, and there's quite a bit here and there, but it looks like the best is right up in there. You see those? The pencil diameter?
Yeah.
So I'm going to come up in here and cut those out.
Any tricks you have when you cut your scion off?
Make sure you have a nice sharp blade.
You got a razor blade.
This is a razor blade.
Okay.
I cleaned it with alcohol a little while ago, so I know we don't have any diseases that we might be transmitting, exactly just like a surgeon. So when I take this one off, this looks like it has nice buds. It's nice and round, so that one looks nice and healthy. Yeah, grab that. That's all we really need. Make sure it's nice and green. Okay, we've got green growth there.
So this is the Sage-O.
So that Sage-O
persimmon scion.
Correct. So that one looks really good.
Now somebody's going to ask when they watch this video, could you just plant this in the ground?
You could take and try to root the cutting. That's what it's called, rooting and cutting.
Right.
But it's quite difficult.
Okay.
Has to be under ideal conditions and keep misting it and root hormone and stuff. But will never be a really strong rooted tree. As good as grafting onto a good rootstock. So
better to take this delicious persimmon and graft onto a persimmon appropriate rootstock.
Right. Cool. So here's another one. This may be a little bit better. You see the bark on this is a little bit greener.
Okay.
So judging rootstock, that'd be okay. But this seems to be a little bit finer.
And so if you were to scratch and it was brown, it wouldn't be one you want?
Won't use it. It's got to be nice and green.
Okay.
If I found a brown one, this one will show brown. See, it looks like pretty close to the same, but if I scratch it,
it's hard. Yeah.
And if you really get into it, it's brown. So that one I'm not going to graft on. But that's a good one.
Okay. So these are living, and the one you just dropped is mulch.
Correct. It's mulch. And you know, you just look through the tree and just get the right diameter.
So we can go back there and we can try to graft this on.
Let's graft those two. Those look pretty good.
Let's do it. Okay. So Doug, we're here and you have persimmon appropriate rootstock. I have 2 questions. So one is, where did you get the rootstock from? And 2 is, if this were to grow on its own, what would it turn into? This is a lotus persimmon seedling. Okay. That actually we order them from some of our growers through the Rare Fruit Growers Club. Okay. So we ordered like 100 persimmon seedlings. Right. That they're growing specifically to be able to graft persimmon onto. And it's called a lotus? Lotus is the name of the seedling rootstock. So that's appropriate for our Sage-O? For any persimmon. Okay. So if we let it grow, you know, it would eventually produce some type of persimmon, but they're not really edible. Right. It's just for the rootstock. So the rootstock we know is good, has resistance against some of the diseases in the soil, and has a really good root system to produce a good strong tree. To give energy to this. Correct. Kind of like if you liked my arms, but your legs. There we go. Put my arms on your body. So we're going to use this rootstock to graft. Correct. Okay. Let's go for it. Let's go. So Doug, we're back here at the table. And we got some of the rare fruit growers plants that are for sale in the back. And there are different styles and different techniques of grafting, correct?
Correct. It's not a exact science.
Okay.
It's more like an art, and there's different people doing it different ways. And as long as it works for them, hey, that's great.
So we're sticking one tree to the other tree, but there's different tactics.
Right. The idea behind grafting is you've got the rootstock that has disease resistance and a great root system, and we put on it a known variety of fruiting material that we know is going to produce great fruit.
And my other question was, before we get started, are there any trees that are not appropriate to graft?
There are some that you can't graft, but generally any of the hardwoods are going to be grafted.
So like a papaya, not really
Papaya
the best.
you can graft. Al Falkenstein grafted one.
Oh, he did?
Only person I know that ever grafted one.
That's kind of uncommon.
That's very rare.
Okay.
But bananas you can't graft. You know, a few other things like that. The monocots you can't graft, but generally any dicot we can graft.
Okay.
You have to graft like variety on like variety. So you can graft any citrus on any citrus.
Okay, that's important.
Graft any persimmon on any persimmon, and a little bit more. You can graft any apple on any apple. The plums, peaches, nectarines, apricots are all pretty much the same family.
So they can be grafted.
Those can be intergrafted. You can graft a plum on an apricot and vice versa.
But you wouldn't be putting an apple on a fig.
Can't do it.
Okay.
Okay. But even then, you still, if you stick apricot to apricot, you have a better chance of it growing. Probably.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
So we're doing persimmon on persimmon today.
Persimmon on persimmon.
Okay.
Okay. This is a Lotus persimmon rootstock, which is a really good rootstock. And the persimmon we chose to graft onto it, this is a Sage-O persimmon. It's one of my favorite, just incredible fruit.
And all the research online says this is one of the most delicious.
One of the most delicious I've ever tasted.
Okay. Even more than the hachia.
I like it better hachia. Hachia is big,
yes,
but it doesn't have the flavor of a Sage-O. It's not as sweet.
Okay.
So Sage-O is one of the greatest to me. I mean, everybody's tastes are different.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful persimmon.
Cool.
So we're going to learn how to graft.
Okay.
So basically, we're taking the rootstock and we're taking the scion.
Okay.
And we're going to match them up. It'd be like you having a cut and the doctor going in and sewing the cut back together to get the cut to heal properly.
Or grafting some skin from here over to that.
So we're going to take and make a cut, and then we're going to push it back together and have it tight so that it grows back together with the new piece of wood.
And what's the form of grafting we're going to do today?
This is called a cleft graft.
Cleft.
It's one of the easiest, simplest. Anybody can do it, and after practicing a few times, generally you're going to be successful.
And you recommend to get good just to go out and practice in your yard?
Practice on anything you can.
Okay, cool.
The more you practice with, the better you're going to get at it.
Yeah.
You know, you get to be pretty good at it the more times you try, like anything else. So we're going to take our rootstock,
okay,
and we're going to take our scion, and it's not necessary, but it's great if we match up both sides of them.
So if you can get an appropriate
So we want to get the
size.
same diameter.
I see.
I want to have a graft that's about 6 to 8 inches or so above the soil line.
Okay, which is
So
here.
somewhere about right in here, I want to put a graft.
Okay.
Okay. So in that case, I'm going to take my caliper, and this is just a cheapy old caliper. Had around forever from the kids' homework or whatever.
Okay.
So I've got that, and I'm going to come over here to my scion and try to get it at about the same size. So somewhere right in there.
Okay.
Okay. See, up here it's too small.
Right.
I won't match.
Okay.
Okay. That doesn't fit. Down here it's too big.
Okay.
So we're going to get one somewhere about right in there. It looks like it matches right. Okay.
Okay, cool.
So to make sure we're right, I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut it where a place where I think is a pretty straight piece of wood.
And again, you
Just
talked
cut
about
it.
the importance of clean tools. So this is what you use to clean your tools.
Keep the blade clean. This is a razor cutter, and it's nothing special. You just use it's a razor blade, so you make sure you have a nice clean cut all the time.
And if you don't do
It's
this,
very
you run
sharp.
the risk of what?
You could have something from one of the other trees that has germ or something on it, virus, that introduce it onto this tree.
Right.
And infect it, and it could have a virus and transmit a virus. So just to make sure, we're going to cut it again. Cut this off now that we've cleaned it.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay, clean.
This is my favorite knife because it's a scalpel.
And okay. So this is a grafting knife or a scalpel?
This is a scalpel. It's not a grafting knife. You can use a grafting knife. I don't seem to find grafting knives that are as sharp as this.
Okay.
This is medical grade scalpel. It's just like what the surgeons use. It's the same blade that a surgeon uses to cut somebody open. This is from any of the outdoor stores.
Like Bass Pro Shops, whatever.
Bass Pro Shops, any of those.
Oh, okay.
Hunters use it to skin out wild game.
Wow, okay.
Okay, because they found it stays sharp so long. Very, very sharp.
Cool.
Okay, so we're going to take this rootstock and we're going to cleft it, meaning we're going to cut it right straight in half.
Okay.
So right down the top, we're going to cut a line.
Okay.
Now there's 2 rules here.
Okay.
First rule is you don't cut yourself.
Okay.
Okay. Second rule is you don't cut me.
Okay.
I don't want you to break any rules.
Okay, I won't break the rules.
So we're going to go right down. I'm going to stand up so I can make sure I get right straight down the center of this. Okay. Now let's do it this way. You can see a little bit easier. Okay, so right straight down the center. Move your hand.
Oh, excuse me.
I don't want to cut you. Cool. You never know when it's going to take. You just kind of rock that back and forth. Okay.
How far down are you going to go?
Down about an inch.
Okay.
Okay, and that's all we want to go, right straight down the center.
Okay.
So that's clefted.
Okay.
That's why they call it a cleft graft. We cleft it in 2.
Cleft it or split it?
Okay, split it in 2.
Okay, about an inch, inch and a half down.
Okay, then again, I'm going to make sure I have the right diameter. So I'm coming here to my scion. It didn't seem like it's right, it moved. Okay.
To match this diameter.
So I'm going to match exact diameters. So it looks like it's right there.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut this in a V shape to fit it right straight down there. So I'm cutting through here.
So kind of like a plug, you're getting a female end and a male end.
Correct.
Kind of, okay. Now this is the part that takes some skill and some practice.
We want to get it as smooth as we can. That's more than I wanted.
Okay.
But we're just going to trim this back down. I'm trying to make this as thin as possible and make it about an inch long, the same as that one that we have there.
Right.
Okay, about. Doesn't have to be exact. And again, there's no perfect, exact way of doing it.
So the length of your male end here has to match the female cut.
Right. And we want it to be a nice, thin. Okay, so that's looked pretty good. Can you see we've got a nice, thin
now,
V?
Let me ask you a question. So the darker part in the middle, the lighter part on the outside, what are these called?
Okay, good question. So the part that grows on this is called a cambium layer. It's right there, right where the brown meets the white. There's a little bit of green. It's hard to see. Right there you can see the green a little bit better. That green cambium layer is the part of the tree where all the nutrients flow.
Oh.
All the nutrients flow up and down that layer. So we're trying to match that green cambium layer of the scion with the cambium layer of the rootstock.
So when we have healthy soil, it gets sucked up through that cambium layer.
Correct. All the nutrients flow back and forth. So if we can get enough nutrients flowing back and forth right there, then this graft is going to stay alive.
Okay.
If we don't get enough, then the graft is going to dry and die before it starts growing.
We have to match the nutrient layers up.
Correct.
I see.
Okay, so now we've got that. We're going to stick this, a little bit hard to see, but we're going to stick it right down inside there.
Okay.
And just match it.
And if you can see, if I spin that, you got the diameters matched up. Pretty nice.
Okay. Matched up pretty good, didn't it?
So there's no overlap.
A little bit of white left out the top is what it has to have. It can't be all the way down.
Okay.
Trying to match as close as possible right in there where those two, that's a pretty good. A little bit of a gap, but we'll push it together and you'll see it's going to work.
So a little bit of white left out is okay.
Has to be there.
Has to be there.
If there's no white there, it's not going to work.
I see. Okay. Cool. Okay.
So now we want to seal it tight so it doesn't dry out. There's different ways of sealing it. In older times, they used a gooey mess grafting wax. So you had to be hot or it got goo all everything.
You have some great tools for this.
Don't use grafting wax. There's something better. It's this product here called parafilm.
Okay.
Parafilm. They use it in labs to seal test tubes. It stretches.
You can buy this off the internet.
Buy it off the internet. That's the only place to get it. I haven't seen it really in any of the local stores around. But it works great.
Kind of stretchy, right?
Okay, so I'm going to show you right here. So I cut some of this smaller roll off.
Okay.
Okay. And it comes in two. There's a cover on it, and then there's the stretchy part.
Oh.
The cover paper you're just going to throw away. So we're going to seal it by stretching. Watch this seal and stretch.
Okay, nice.
So by stretching it there, see it stretches quite a ways before. By stretching it, I can stretch it and push it around that so it goes into every little nook and cranny to seal properly.
Right.
So no air gets in.
So nothing can infect it or dry it out.
Correct.
I see.
So I like using this because I can cut a 4-inch piece that's the perfect length to do one graft.
Okay.
So I take this 4-inch width and cut it about, oh, 1/2 inch wide or a little bit less. And that's going to be my parafilm seal.
That's your Band-Aid.
It's the Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go below the very last part where I made an open wound, which is about right there. Going to go below that. And I'm just pulling this, and it doesn't have to be real tight, but you notice I am stretching it.
Firm.
See, I pull.
Okay.
As I pull, it stretches.
Okay.
And I'm keeping my fingers close, so it's only stretching the last inch or so.
Okay.
And I'm taking this all the way up,
So
creating my own little greenhouse, if you want to think of it that way.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
So that's holding in the moisture. Okay. And I'm going up above, at least up above the wound.
Right.
Okay. I like going even higher than that because this part up here could still dry out.
Right.
So if we seal in the moisture all the way up above it, then it has a better chance of the graft taking.
That's awesome.
Now let's talk about how high we want to go. If I left this whole limb on here, if you back up and you can see there's about 1 foot or so of
the top.
scion on there. There's not enough nutrients flowing across this cut to be able to keep that whole limb alive.
So we need to cut this.
And I don't want to have 15 buds growing up there anyway.
Right.
All I want is one to grow up to become my new trunk. So all I want is one bud.
Just one.
And have a greater chance of nutrients flowing across this part and keeping one bud alive than keeping 15 buds alive.
And for the really super beginners out there, the buds are these guys right here.
There's the buds.
Oh, there's a bud right there.
Bud there and bud there. Right. So I'm going to take, there's my first bud.
Okay.
All I want to do is cut right above that bud on a little bit of an angle. Okay.
Nice.
Could come a little bit closer to it, but that's pretty close.
Okay.
You know, it doesn't have to be exact.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get that one bud to grow.
So now
that's all I want, because that has the genetics that I want.
So this entire persimmon tree will grow from this one bud.
One bud. That's all trees. Every single fruiting tree that you get
That's amazing.
has the rootstock and has the fruiting off of one bud.
So this one bud will become the trunk.
Correct.
In 10 years from now.
So 2 years from now.
Or 2 years from now. I was gonna say
so I'm going to keep on going on up.
Okay.
And going all the way up and covering everything. I'm covering the bud
completely
because you noticed that when it stretched far enough, it broke, right?
Right.
So that means when that bud gets growing really good, it's going to grow right through that parafilm and break it. So keep right on going.
So this parafilm is strong enough to hold the scion in place, but it's weak enough that the bud can push through it.
Correct. It's only holding it in place, but it's not really mashing it together.
Correct.
Okay, it's just holding it there kind of as a little greenhouse, only to hold water.
Just to hold water.
Preserve the moisture, but it hasn't mashed it together. So now we're going to talk about mashing it together. So we got these two pieces of the rootstock here. If they're not mashed together, if they're not touching, you know, capillaries touching, then there's no transfer of nutrients across. So we got to mash those capillaries together, if you so to speak.
At the joint.
Right at the joint, right there.
Okay.
So that we get the nutrients flowing across.
But we don't want to smash the bud, but we do want to mash up the graft.
We're not going to hurt the bud.
Okay.
Now there's a couple of different ways of doing it. To mash that together, you can use just the plain old green garden tape.
Okay.
And go around. But you have to keep a really tight grip on it, have to keep really strong pressure because we want it really mashed together hard.
Sure.
Okay?
Okay.
It's easier to use a rubber band.
Oh.
Okay? Here's an actual grafting rubber band.
Okay.
But it's kind of small for this size. That probably would work fine. Or you can use just any old rubber band. This is a rubber band off of a stalk of broccoli.
Okay.
That works great.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
My particular preference, you may recognize this if you had blood taken.
Yeah, to make the veins pop out.
That's the tourniquet. I cut it into force because it's the right stretch. Okay.
Okay.
But a regular rubber band would work just fine too.
Okay. But if you wanted to invest in some grafting supplies, get the tourniquet. The tourniquet rubber band.
I recycle them from working at the hospital.
Okay.
You know, when they draw your blood, whoever's drawing it, they throw a lot of these away.
Okay.
You can buy them. You can buy them online too.
Is there some sort of blood disease on this rubber band?
No.
Okay.
If it falls on the floor, they can't use it.
Okay.
So they throw it in a pile and I take them.
Awesome.
So we're recycling them.
Recycling.
That's all there's to it.
Reusing.
So I'm going to wrap this starting below the cut. That's where the cut is right there. So I'm going below that cut at least 1/4 inch or more.
Okay.
And I'm just pulling this. Now I want to turn this because I want the two sides coming together.
Right.
Okay? I don't want to be pulling
Where the graft
sideways.
is.
I want the two sides coming, squishing together.
I see.
So I'm pulling this, and you might want to come from this side. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm pulling towards me really tight.
Yeah.
Coming around, holding it again.
Because then you're
Pulling
pulling
tight,
the
I'm
rootstock against the scion,
Mashing them together.
mashing them.
So I'm pulling really tight, holding it, pulling really tight. Can you see
Wow.
the pressure that
It's-
I'm putting on that?
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure.
There's a lot of pressure, so I'm mashing those things together.
Easily 3 times more than the parafilm.
If I did this on your finger, you'd be screaming by now.
Okay, okay.
You're losing circulation.
So it's important to really get it tight.
Want to get it nice and tight. All the way up. Okay. I'm pulling tight every time and holding it with my finger in between.
Sure.
If you let go of that finger, it goes.
Because it's
You
not
have to start
sticky.
all over.
Yeah, it's not
Doesn't
sticky.
sticky.
Right.
Okay, so I'm pulling that up. You can either stop right there. Okay, you don't have to go above, or you can go up above a little bit if you want, but it's
one
really
time,
not
so-
necessary.
So really just get to where the rootstock is.
Right, now, to wrap this off, this is the great thing about rubber band. You just go underneath, put it through there, pull it out, let go, and you're done.
That's it.
Okay,
So that's it.
technically we're done.
That's ready.
That's ready.
There should be an applause, like the audience should be applauding this.
We're going to demonstrate another way though.
Okay.
Okay, because there's different ways of doing things and different things of trying.
So this way is called the cleft graft.
This is a cleft graft.
Okay. So now I could take this home, I could plant this. If people subscribe or hit the like button, they can see an update of this thing growing.
Correct.
And when should I see the buds start to grow?
It's usually within a couple, 2 or 3 weeks, depending
3
on
weeks.
temperature and how well we did it and how good the scion is and so forth.
And keep it in the pot for a while.
Should be in the pot 6 months or so.
Okay.
Keep it wet, has to be in shade. It's in the sun is going to cook that,
Right.
scorch it,
And-
kill it.
And rot it.
Right.
Something
Total
like
shade.
that. Okay.
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 Warm, but not too hot.
Right.
Should be really cold. We want to start growing.
Right.
This is one that we just potted up, the rootstock, so it would take a while for it to get growing anyway. So that one's done. Okay.
So graft technique number 2.
Different way of, technique number 2. That one really is done. 9 times out of 10 that will grow. Once in a while something doesn't work. Don't know why. Something not quite right. Got some bacteria, something in there, it rots.
I'm gonna say
it didn't grow.
It looks perfect to me.
But it looks like the one
Looks
other
really
thing
good.
with that, sometimes that rubber band will rot and fall off before it starts growing.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you might take something else and go around the rubber
Just
band.
tie it.
I'll show you that in a little bit.
Okay.
We're going to go to technique number 2.
Okay.